This week's parasha is Parashat Tisá. The most important story that is related in this week's parasha is Chet HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, which is an all-inclusive sin of the Jewish people, for which we are still doing tshuva until the complete tshuva, which will bring Mashiach. Although this may be considered to be the greatest sin of the Torah, in fact, if we contemplate the whole Torah from beginning to end, there are four great sins. Obviously, there are more smaller, particular sins, but there are four great sins of the Torah. The first, of course, is at the very beginning of the Torah, the primordial sin of Adam and Eve, eating of the forbidden fruit, called Chet Adam v'Chava, or Chet Ha'achila me'etz hadat tov v'ra. Then comes the sin of the brothers of Joseph, selling Joseph, their brother, into slavery. But again, it's a very all-inclusive sin for which the Jewish people actually suffers. The 10 martyrs in the time of the Roman Empire were a rectification of the 10 brothers that sold their brother Joseph into slavery. Then comes the sin of this week's parasha, which is the golden calf. And finally, the fourth great all-inclusive sin is the sin of the spies, which is actually the spying the promised land, the good land flowing with milk and honey, the land of Israel, and not believing sufficiently in the promise that Moshe Rabbeinu gave from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we will be able to enter the land and conquer the land and inhabit the land. Because of that sin, we cry just as they cried that night, that they heard the bad report of the spies, so we cry every year on that night, which is Tisha B'Av, because of the destruction of the first and the second temples. Each of the four sins comes from a different place, a different negative psychological motivation. The first is a sin of pure lust. The passion to eat from this beautiful, attractive, delicious-looking tree, fruit, especially due to the fact that the primordial serpent, the snake, promised that if you eat this fruit, you'll become like God, to be able to create worlds. But the simple thing that it says in the Torah is that Eve was simply attracted in passion to this tree and the fruit of the tree. According to Kabbalah, it also has to do with sexual passion. And it's all lust, it's all passion. Then comes the selling of the brothers, that they sold their brother Joseph to slavery. Why? Because they were jealous of him. That they saw that as though his father was preferring him over them. So they became very, very jealous of Joseph, and because of jealousy they came to hate him. But the hatred is because of the jealousy. The primary motivation is the jealousy that they had. Then comes the golden calf of this week's parasha. And then finally comes the sin of the spies. First we'll say, what is the motivation of the sin of the spies? It's because of fear. Any type of fear in the soul, phobia, which makes one unable to take initiative and to get up and to do something. He's afraid of the results, but especially he's afraid of failure. That he's not unable to do that particular task that he is told to do, that he's supposed to do. So that fear of failure, any type of fear that a person has, that's what's behind the sin of the spies. The spies came back and said that the people that are inhabiting the land at present are just too strong for us. It's too great of a task for us. We will not be able to conquer them. So because of that fear, as they talked to the fear, they aroused the fear which was latent in the soul. But because of that fear of having to go to war, and that we will not succeed because they're too strong, that's what was the primary motivation of the last sin. What about the sin of this week's parasha? which in a certain sense is the all-inclusive of all of them together. We're taught that Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, its gematria equals Koach HaMdameh. Koach HaMdameh is a phrase, a two-word phrase, which is literally the power of imagination. It means mistaken association of the mind, which is sometimes referred to as katnut mochim, small-mindedness, which is the source of superstition, of emunot feilot in the soul. The person makes false connections, false associations. He has misconceptions about reality, and he takes obviously his misconceptions seriously. He thinks that this is reality, but he is in a state of a semi-hallucination or dreaming. And that's what the golden calf is all about. They saw also as a hallucination that Moses was being carried in a coffin in heaven, that he's dead. This is imagination, koach hamdameh. And if Moses is dead, we have to immediately substitute him with something else, someone else. What is that? That's the golden calf. Once more, the golden calf is actually the disconnection from Moses, because Moses' dot is great, mature mind. But being disconnected from Moshe is katnut mochin, is just entering into a state of imagination. That's exactly what happened. So the motivation behind the golden calf is called koach hamdameh, which is dimayon. So we have these four different motivations behind the four great sins of the Torah: lust, and jealousy, and imagination, and fear. But the Torah teaches us that if there's a sin, there is clearly a rectification of the sin. The sin can be rectified, and the sin will be rectified. The very word sin, chet, equals chai. Chai means life, alive. A sin makes one fall into a state of the opposite of life. It's death, the opposite. But sin can be, a person can be resurrected from his fallen state of sin. And that resurrection is by doing tshuva. And after we do tshuva, retroactively, it's even was worthwhile, so to say, the sin itself, however strange that seems, because sin is a result of free choice. But finally, in God's ultimate plan of reality, everything is worthwhile because of the great divine revelation that takes place when we do tshuva. Together with the sin, tshuva is in the sin itself. The fact that there are four sins is alluded to in the very word sin. The sin has three letters to it: chet and tet and aleph. Instead of adding those letters, that they equal 18, which is chai, if we multiply the letters one by the other, it's 8 times 9 times 1 equals 72. But 72 itself is a multiple of 18. It's 4 times 18. So in the word chet itself, there's not just one chai, but there's actually 4 chais, that all 4 sins we will be resurrected from those sins by doing tshuva. It's a well-known custom of the Jewish people in giving charity, which it says is the greatest practical rectification of sin, is to give charity in sums of chai, because every chai equals the sin itself. The sin is coming from the unconscious of the soul. It says that the word sin is an unintentional transgression, because deep down sin is something in one's unconscious. It's a fall that begins from the unconscious. When a person reaches out to help another person, and when a person reaches out not just to help another person physically, but to do tzedakah also spiritually, like King David says in his own tshuva, that my ultimate tshuva is v'chataim elech yashuvu, to have other sinners do tshuva. That is the ultimate tshuva, that's the ultimate tzedakah, the ultimate charity. And that is what rectifies sin. And as we said, even retroactively makes the sin worth having sinned for the tshuva and the great, great revelation of joy that comes from the revelation of Hashem, having returned to Him from far, far away, from a state of it's called Hefech HaChaim, the opposite of life, to become resurrected and return to life together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.